practically speaking, everybody wants this. How do we get there? So
Yeah.
there are 101 things you can do, and I'm sure we could waffle all day about the intricacies, but maybe like sledgehammer level stuff. What are big rocks that you think people really need to be thinking about, diet, lifestyle, wherever you want to go with this, to really build a pro-metabolic high energy state internally?
Yeah, I honestly think one of the most empowering things someone can do is track their food on Cronometer for a
Hmm.
week. You don't have to track your macros every day. You really don't. But the food that you consume every single day plays the biggest lever in improving your health. And if you can just kind of better assess, how many calories, how much macros, am I hitting my RDAs? And you can kind of see that on Cronometer and kind of develop a little bit, collect some data, right? Because then you can start to make decisions based on data rather than just, I'm
Yeah.
kind of like more subjective, right? So I would say that that's a really great place to start, is kind of assessing, hey, what's my food frequency? How much food am I consuming? Am I hitting RDAs, or am I like really missing vitamin
Yeah.
B3 or something like that? I think that's a great place to start. I also think that when you can, I know that this is very overwhelming for some people, but when you can, know where your food comes from, because then you can kind of better control what type of metabolic breaks you're avoiding, excess toxins, things like that. And so let's say that someone is buying all their food from Costco right now. Totally fine. Keep doing that. My challenge to you is to take one of those foods and instead source it from a local farmer or
Hmm.
something else. So, like, for example, buy your milk from a local farmer or someone online that delivers to you or something like that, or eggs or meat. Just choose one thing, find a source that you can feel confident in, and go there. So starting to better understand where your food is coming from, and limiting the amount of times that you go out to eat. I think that that's kind of on the unfortunate
Yeah.
reality of modern times, is like a lot of restaurants, fast food, processed food, it's really not setting you up for success. So the more that you can cook from home, the better. And I know that that's overwhelming for people, but it's just the reality of where the food system is right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think assessing your activity, you don't have to go crazy overboard. And I think that that's a thing that stops people, because they think I have to work out every day.
Hmm.
Nope. Let's try to hit 8,000 steps a day. Can you do 8,000 steps a day, scattered walks throughout the day? Exercise, strength train one time a week. Doing those two things will move
Yeah.
your health forward so much. I strength train 3 times a week and I get like 8 to 10,000 steps a day. If someone can do that, amazing, right? But one strength training workout a week will make a big difference as well. I don't think you need to do 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that that can actually be too much.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do as much as what people think. And I think that that's freeing, because then you can actually start. Because sometimes limitations for people not to start is the fear of it taking too much time or not
Yeah.
being able to commit to it. So to summarize, track your food on Cronometer for a period of time to just learn. Start to know where your food is coming from and understand the sourcing a little bit. Limit the amount that you go out to eat and maintain some level of like baseline activity. And I think that those are 4 things that can really move the needle forward in someone's health. And
Hmm.
I have found that when people start to do the 8,000 steps a day, they kind of naturally start to get more sunlight.
Yeah.
They realize, hey, in order to hit 8,000 steps a day, I got to go outside a few times a day. So then that kind of knocks 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So
Bingo.
then it's not as overwhelming. So those are 4 tips, I would say. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts? Would you add a 5th there?
I actually, it's funny. I would say much of the same kind of things, and especially liked your point on a few things in particular. And I think there are many double whammies in there. Like the not eating out because you don't want to. And I mean, depends where you are, right? If you're in a cool, fun city like Austin, at least you can find some seed oil free restaurant options now that are focusing on local, organic, nose to tail. Like that's cool, but that's like the 1% of restaurants out there. Everywhere else is using crappy ingredients from Tyson or wherever else it's coming from,
Yeah.
fried in seed oils. So it's not just about, the quality of the food. It's also about limiting the really harmful things that are damaging your mitochondria. the more steps, the more sunlight is great. I think starting sensibly with something like a movement is actually the way to do it, because I agree, most people don't do it because it just seems too big.
Yeah.
The cool thing is if you start with one exercise session or you do one movement class or you find something that you like, you're naturally going to want to do more. But as if you try to say like, oh, I've got to work out every day, it's like a big like grind. But if you start doing it, you're like, wait a minute, that was fun. I feel amazing. It gave me more energy. Maybe I'll do 2. And then maybe you arrive at a really balanced place where you're hitting 3, 4 a week and you get in your steps and now you're a vibrant human. And it
Set
wasn't like
yourself up for
forced on you.
success.
Yeah, simple. Right? Like simple scales and fancy fails in our food systems, in our shopping systems. Like it's always about coming back to simplicity, which is kind of where you started, right? Like we don't even know what food is anymore. It's got too complicated because the whole thing is so complex. Simple is often the answer. All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.